A new book is giving an inside look at Ukraine's president in the years leading up to Russia's invasion. The Fight for Our Lives walks readers through the tension rising with Russia as Ukraine tried to move away from its former Soviet roots. Iuliia Mendel was Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's former press secretary and the author of The Fight for Our Lives. She joins me now. Good morning to you. Good to have you on.
Good morning, Lindsey. Thank you for having me.
So you woke up on the morning of February 24th to the sounds of explosions. A lot happened to you in the hours that followed. Walk me through those events of that day.
This is very difficult to walk in a news genre for the reason that the world around us just was collapsing. Everything that we achieved was under threat. We understood that we were actually at the fight for our very existence. Yes, we heard bombs everywhere. I will just tell you one short story of when we were traveling from western city of Lviv to Kiev. We arrived to Kiev, and at that moment in March, Russians shelled the part where we were staying with grades. And if there were like the little different angle of their shelling, I think I wouldn't be sitting here. Everything was on fire, the houses, there were forests. Then I went to another city of Vinnytsia, and as soon as I arrived there, locals said that Russia hit a missile 30 minutes ago. From there, my now husband went to the front lines, and I went to the city of Lviv just to learn that Russia hit the city of Lviv with the missile too. And it was continuing fiercely, killing so many people and causing so much panic, but at the same time showing us that we had what to fight for. And that was our principal position with my now husband, not to leave the country and try to contribute as much as possible. We believe that if we were standing at this land, we would win. So these days we are really celebrating, and we are really proud of our army and our volunteers who sacrificed all their life to stand at the battlefield and to be at the rear supporting our army to stand for what we achieved, for the democracy and for our freedom.
And Iuliia, I mean, you certainly contributed. Years before the conflict started, you took on the role of the president's press secretary in 2019. And the story behind you getting the job, I think, is really interesting, with Zelenskyy putting you through what he called a stress test. So what did you have to do to get the job?
So there was a competition. Imagine that Volodymyr Zelenskyy, a novice in politics, he was as popular as a rock star. And it seemed that everyone wanted to work for him. So he was the first Ukrainian president to open transparent competition for the highest top political positions. And press secretary was among them. There were 4,000 applicants. And I still cannot believe that number when I understand that I won that competition. And I think there was one question at the last interview with the president himself that made him hire me. He asked what was my motivation for this job. And I said, look, if you are a man from a poor background, from some provincial town in Ukraine, and you can become the president of this country, and then me, a girl from the same poor background, from different region of Ukraine, but can transparently become your press secretary, what is it if not a Ukrainian dream? I think then he understood that we are sharing the same vision for the country, and that's how I started working as his press secretary.
It's pretty incredible. He's incredible. In your book, you write this quote: "Those who had discounted Zelenskyy in the past were amazed that this post-Soviet former comedian, the leader of the poorest country in Europe, could suddenly become the face of democracy and a beacon of freedom in the world." And he really has become that. Tell us about that transition. You had a front seat to that. How did Zelenskyy go from comedian to someone willing to stand his ground against the Russian army?
Well, first of all, let me say that he has a degree in law, so he finished education in law, and he's a lawyer. The second, he did an amazing job by building such a huge business as a humor empire on post-Soviet space. Believe me, this is a huge challenge with many people who don't want you to achieve the results. In fact, the role of a comedian was just the most popular. And when you work with him shoulder to shoulder, he is a pretty serious man. Yes, he was following a not good advice, and sometimes everyone makes mistakes. For you to understand, when he arrived in power, his first team that brought him to power was advising him not to communicate with media, which I, as a press secretary, was fighting, and actually finally won. For the reason, I'm happy that I was the one to contribute to the fact that he is so openly communicates with so many media and explains the position of Ukraine these days. But in fact, I was not surprised to the major question when I've heard that he denied to leave Ukraine when there was the threat to his personal life and to life of his family. I was not surprised. I had been traveling with him to Donbass that Russia invaded in 2014 and where the military actions had been held for all this time. And I saw how he was going to the zones of shelling when the shelling actually was there, just to stay with the soldiers and to show that their leader is with them. And when he was going to the front lines to handshake with the soldiers. So I knew that he is the person of that kind who is not afraid of being with his people.
Iuliia, it is incredible to watch him from where I sit. It must have been truly incredible from where you were seated as well. Iuliia Mendel, the book is called The Fight for Our Lives. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.